Hello, everybody. This is Sheri Kaye Hoff with the Living Joyfully Show. Make sure you stop by SheriKayeHoff.com, SheriKayeHoff.com, and check out all the free gifts for personal development and business growth. It's tons of fun. So I am so excited here today to tell you about my fabulous guest. I just adore her. So let me tell you about Shoshanna. Shoshanna French's goal is to cultivate wildly successful leaders through the practical power of intuition. As the founder of Simple Spirit, a keynote speaker and coach to NFL leaders, Broadway and television stars, million and billion-dollar business founders, CEOs, and business professionals, Shoshanna French generates unpredictable and profound results for leaders who are looking to develop a deeper connection to their purpose. Welcome. I'm so happy you're here. How are you today, Shoshanna?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to be talking with you today. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we have a good time when we're together, for sure.
We do. We really do. Everybody should just know that I love Sheri's sense of humor, so we might laugh a lot. Just be warned.
Yeah. We probably will laugh. So, okay. All right. Well, so I love the topic of intuition. It really just speaks to my soul, and I feel, as you do, that everybody has some intuitive gifts and can strengthen those gifts. So why don't we start by you just telling us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today?
Well, whenever I think about that, what I always think about is kind of those key moments when my intuition poked me and had kind of my entire path change. And I imagine anyone listening has had those experiences. And maybe not in the moment. It didn't seem obvious that what was happening, but when you look backwards, you go, oh, duh, yeah, that's totally what happened. So the first came from when I was in college, and a friend of mine brought me into a bookstore. And I'd never really been in a metaphysical bookstore before, but when I walked in, the owner of the store, said to me, oh, there you are. And I came to find out later that she had like an intuitive dream where she was told this girl was going to walk into her store and to teach her everything she knew. And so that was like kind of the shift in my journey at that moment. They taught me how to, read cards. They taught me about meditation. They taught me about trusting and listening to my intuition. Prior to that moment, it was kind of this weird thing that happened to me, and I didn't really understand it. I mostly was kind of at odds with these senses I got about things. And at the time I was 18, so that's not terribly surprising, but kind of from that moment forward until now, that was like 26 years ago, I now know how to listen. So it kind of happened along the way. That was like the first of many. But what had me start my business, why I'm at where I'm at right now, is in 2005, I had this journey that I was going on to Europe, and I thought it was a good idea to go with this group of women. We were going to go and do women's circles, all this kind of cool stuff. However, I did not really have enough money to stay as long as everybody else. And so I had to rely on a friend to buy me a ticket to get out of Europe. And when I got home, I was kind of in that space of, who am I? What am I going to be when I grow up? And I found myself in a coaching group with this amazing coach, Lori, and she recommended that all of us consider starting businesses. Now, I was like, why would I do that? Because my only point of reference for being a business owner was my dad, and he worked all the time, like all the time. He's a motorcycle mechanic who opened a motorcycle shop, and he basically worked 7 days a week. He had a brick and mortar. So he worked on bikes, built bikes, and sold parts. And I was like, that sounds like a terrible idea. However, I was connected to my intuition, and during a meditation in that coaching group, she led us all in a meditation. The name Simple Spirit came to me, and then a whole image vision of what the future of owning a business would be like. And it did take me, 8 years of building business to get to the place where I stopped having a day job and then was fully full time in my business, but I learned a lot, as you could imagine, along that path, not only about intuition in my personal life and working with so many different kinds of clients, but also how to use my intuition to grow my business. It didn't occur till like the 5th year of business that would be a good idea.
You know, one thing that I think is really beautiful about that story is that I think so many times people think that, oh, I'm going to get this moment and I'm going to be, you know, Oprah tomorrow. And so it's so inspiring. Just like, I mean, I've been doing this for 14 years, and I think it's so inspiring, you know, to meet women like you and, you know, for people to meet me where, you know, we're saying we've been through the building parts, and sometimes it takes a while, and, you know, things evolve, and it's like, I've always trusted, you know, even, you know, no matter what roller coaster I've been on, that I've trusted my business to lead me where it wanted to go. And that has served me really well in my business. And so I think it's inspiring for people to realize that there are many routes to starting a business. So when you talk about intuition, I think one of the things I love about you, Shoshanna, is that you know, you've got this incredible intuitive gift, but you're so down to earth, practical. And I think that's a remarkable combination and so helpful to people. So when you talk about, you know, intuition, can you tell us some kind of practical ways that people can start listening more to their intuition?
So practical ways that people can listen to their intuition. I have been reading a whole bunch of really interesting books lately where people talk about intuition. I just even read Untamed by Glennon Doyle recently, and she talked about like your inner wisdom or your inner knowing. And what I like out of what people who are pretty practical talking about intuition say, and you know, kind of it fits with what I talk about with clients, is that really mostly in the speed of the life that we live right now, we don't take the time to pause because we're it's kind of like we're on fast forward all the time. You know, we're plugged into technology, we're answering texts or Facebook Messenger or Instagram DMs or texting our friends or answering emails. And so intuition requires pause. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't require silence. You know, you're not going to turn off your inner noise entirely. However, your mind kind of frick and your opinions and your points of views and all the things that happen that, you know, where if, say, for example, we're tapping into our intuition about how to grow our business, all of the things we've learned from the books we've read and the blogs and our coaches or other mentors or just even other colleagues who are business owners that we respect, all of their opinions are way louder than that quieter inner voice. So to me, whoever's listening to this, if have had experiences where your intuition talked really loud, but now you can't seem to find the voice of it again, I say pause, like get quiet, sit still, ask the question you really want to know, and then listen. And sometimes it takes a little time for intuition to get back to you. Sometimes it's immediate, but that's the very first practice that I would recommend. That's a really practical way, is just stop everything you're doing, take a moment, get really clear what it is that you actually want to know. So as an example, people will ask things like, how do I get my business to grow? And that's a really big question. And so I recommend a more specific question that's open-ended. So rather than how do I get my business to grow, the kind of question you can ask when you're in that pause moment is more like, what would be the one thing I could do right now that would have my business grow immediately? That would be a very specific yet open-ended question in that pause moment that you could ask. And then wait. And for some people, their intuition comes like an idea, like they just know something. That's great. For some people, it's more like they can like kind of see a solution in their mind. For some people, they just hear something. And for some people, they get kind of like a feeling in the gut. however your intuition works, if you really allow yourself to pause, unplug, ask the question, and then listen, you'll find your intuition more easily when you do that more often, because then you'll be able to go, oh, that's the voice of my intuition. I recognize it now. The thing I'll say is, when you, and I say this to moms a lot, but like moms know the voice of their children, even in a really crowded room. So if you're looking for your kid, if you just stop and listen, you can hear where their voice is in the room, even if the room is like really full of people. It's kind of like that. We could hear the voice of our intuition, even with our mind crowded with opinions, thoughts, and like stuff we're processing, if we learn what the voice of our intuition sounds like. So that's what I would recommend.
I like it, and it seems like it's such a unfolding way, like, a chance to maybe hear a little bit and then have it get like a little bit more intense and grow. And in my work with clients, what I notice a lot is that, they're doing this, or they may have been doing this for years, just like I was, and didn't realize that's what they were doing. Like I would go to sleep and I would ask a question and wake up in the morning with an answer, but I didn't really think, oh, I'm tapping into my intuition. It was just kind of the way I was wired. And one of the things that I loved when you and I first talked is how you talked about strengthening your intuition, where you can get beyond just the, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? This yes or no, or do this or don't do that. But to the fine tuning, really helpful kinds of intuitive hits where it's, I don't know if I can even say it any other way than fine tuning. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I like to call those micro adjustments. To me, people sometimes think of using intuition in one of two ways, either like what I call the really big decisions in life, like the downloads or transmissions is what one of my clients calls it, where a brand new idea comes and it's really big, maybe, and kind of radical. And then some people think of intuition just as like those moment to moment, kind of like using an inner GPS, it kind of is like navigating you. But intuition is useful in both situations. So to me, if you're someone who for sure has had that experience where you just got the idea, kind of like the idea for your business or the idea for the book or the idea for, a new product or service or something, like just came to you almost like a lightning bolt. You've had experiences with that. Then now focus on those moment to moment, sort of like being navigated, or vice versa. If you're someone who gets kind of like a gut instinct or a knowing in the immediate about decision making, yes or no in the moment, try to tap into kind of the bigger picture instead. So I would say that those are kind of that's part one. Those are the two places I would recommend if you're someone who really does get kind of in moment to moment. Small decisions are really easy to make, but those bigger decisions, you have the habit of perhaps, pro and con lists or research or asking people. Try your intuition in those bigger decisions, or vice versa. If you're someone who, for really small decisions, goes with, the most accepted practice that other people use, but for, swapping it. And then the second thing is, when we use our intuition, it responds to the question we're asking. So a lot of people aren't actually asking questions. You're unique, Sheri, because you use it really intentionally, and you have, but a lot of people, they don't do that. And so, asking questions of your intuition for some people would be something completely brand new. It would have never occurred to engage with their intuition like a tool. And so that's one of the big adjustments, is just relate to it as a tool and ask more questions.
Mm-hmm. I think too, like for myself, I have a really strong, like analytical, logical, maybe even overthinking mind. But asking intuitive questions and then letting go is a game changer for me. It helps me not overthink. So if I have something that, I feel like, gosh, I could really agonize over this. I take the intuitive approach and ask the question and then just let it go, and I call it like, let it simmer,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let it just kind of be out there and then see what comes up. And so it's not that you abandon logical thinking or in favor of intuitive hits, but they work together. And it's really, when you're in that sweet space, it's just really so beautiful. Now, I know that you work in a couple different ways, probably more than just two, but you have, clients who come to you and say, I'm really struggling with this decision. Can you help me feel into it? And, and so it's more like, an intuitive session with you. And yet you also help people delve into their own intuitive skills. So can you explain kind of what those two things are and what the difference is, and really actually how they're both helpful?
Yeah. So we all get stuck and we can't hear our own intuition. Some people who come to me, don't relate to themselves as having an intuition at all. So when that happens, people tend to come to me as a kind of a guide, or, someone who has like really practical, useful advice, because how my intuition works is I have insight into what's happening, even though I don't know the story, because how my intuition communicates is kind of gives me the whole picture. So one way people come to me is just to do, a session where I can tap into where they're stuck. For some people, it's just that practical advice. That's what they needed. They just couldn't see it. For some people, it's, there are some stuck patterns, and I'm trained in a lot of different modalities, and I can help people get unstuck either mentally or energetically. I've been working with energy for a really long time. The other way people work with me is they relate to themselves perhaps as intuitive. They may or may not have a lot of comfort with how their intuition works, and they need training. And so a lot of those clients, we work together over time, one-on-one, and I train them in how to work with how their intuition actually works, how to apply it to the areas of life that they want to have growth and success, whether the growth looks like being more in alignment with who they are and what they actually want their life to look like, or it looks more like using their intuition to do something like grow their business really practically. So that's the two ways that I work with people. Whether you're stuck and you need someone else to look into what's going on and help you get unstuck, or have insight about your employees or your partner or that, or if you actually want to learn the skill of intuition so you can tap into your own life, I do both. And what I find is it's just where people are. So some people are just in a place where they're not ready yet, or they don't have the space and time yet to learn how to develop their own. They just need me to go in and sort it out for them. So they're both obviously valuable. And one is sort of an immediate thing, and the other is, a learning that then they have following our working together with me as a coach and an intuitive trainer.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can just, I'm thinking about this and thinking about how, when we talked, one of the things, people have a tendency to overthink. I know I do, or overanalyze, and usually we make the answer to whatever is going on super complex, or, we think we got to tear it down and build it back up. And sometimes we do, but I loved that when we were talking and I said, well, I'm really trying to, figure out how to differentiate, my two programs. And you just said, I think it's just the name. I was like, that, it was just so easy to think of it that way. And so I think, I am one who I love working with my own intuition, but I do see how it's helpful just like it's helpful to have a coach, who isn't even, saying that they're intuitive. It's like gives you that reflection back of, it's not as complicated as you thought. You know? So that was truly a great moment. So how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to find you?
The easiest way to find me if you want to book an appointment to work with me is going to my website, simplespirit.com. That's the easiest way if you want to book an appointment. If you want to delve into my blogs, what I'm talking about, what I'm reading, currently I'm always reading something and kind of sharing my own personal growth because I am dedicated to a life of growth as well. So you can find my blog there. If you want to connect with me on social media, I am across 4 platforms. You can find me on Facebook under Simple Spirit Tips. You can find me on Instagram, Shoshanna French Stokes. You can find me on Twitter, Shoshanna French. You can also find me on LinkedIn under Shoshanna French as well. So however you want to find me, super easy. I am highly available across social media. And if you actually want to work with me directly, go to the website, simplespirit.com. On there, you can take a test that will tell you how your intuition works. It's called the Intuitive Blueprint. So even if you don't want to work with me directly, but you want to better understand how your intuition works, I recommend going there and taking the test. It takes about 5 minutes.
Well, I highly recommend that people do search you out for your intuitive gifts and skills and knowledge, but also because you're just a way cool, awesome, fun person. So
thanks, Sheri.
I love that about you. And you're so giving and generous, like just with, your whole spirit. So I really appreciate that. So I just want to remind people, SheriKayeHoff.com, SheriKayeHoff.com, to take advantage of some free gifts. And Shoshanna, before we go here today, if you could sum up, what do you want people to take away from this conversation that we're having?
What I would love for people to recognize is that we're all born intuitive. So you have an intuitive gift. It already works, but likely you're just not listening to it. And it is 100% possible to train yourself. So please, 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 wherever you are in the process, learn to tap in because it is the most useful tool that we have.
What a power statement. I love that. So, okay, thank you so much, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your day, evening, or morning, wherever you are in the world. I love you so much, and I will talk to everybody soon. Take care. Bye-bye.